Hang in there, it is!
Smylie Kaufman for 61. Wow.
I'm Smylie Kaufman, and this is The Smylie Show.
Welcome back to The Smylie Show, yet another special edition that is on site at the FedEx St. Jude Championship. We're at TPC Southwind, Smylie, but more specifically, we are in Freight 59, which is, I've got some factoids on Freight 59. Okay. If you'd like to hear some of these, we got some BB King art all around here. There was like a BB King guitar floating around somewhere. It's named after Al Geiberger's 59, the first 59 recorded on the PGA Tour right here in Memphis.
Okay.
The tour has a 65-year history in Memphis. That's all the facts I have on.
There we go.
I'll tell you,
are we going to see a 59 this week? That's, I guess, the next question.
Well, I mean, it has been a little rainy. It's been a little bit soft. I have a Memphis-related gripe I'd like to get out here, and it's mostly I'm disappointed with myself because yesterday there was that rendezvous on the range, the ribs on the range. Not only did I not get any ribs,
it was a tough scene.
A really tough scene for me, but on top of that, you came back with like one of the cooler shirts that I think I've ever seen. So it was a real double wham.
Yeah, they served everybody at the range that was hungry and wanted to eat, and they asked what I wanted because it was a buffet style. They had people serving you. I was like, give me one of everything, and it was fantastic. And at the end of the line, you got to pick what T-shirt you wanted. It was great. Yeah.
Well, okay. Well, first of all, if anyone from Rendezvous is out there watching or listening, just look at how sad I look right now. I can send you a mailing address for a shirt. What was one of everything? Like, tell me what
was everything. We had, all right. They had slaw. They had, the best thing that I had was like their sausage. They had chicken, pork, ribs.
Wow.
Yes.
Sounds phenomenal.
Cheese, pickles. Yeah.
I'm not even a pickles guy. I feel like you got to eat those pickles.
Yes, 100%.
Amazing.
Goes great with barbecue.
Well, I'm happy for you. I'm sad for me. And we got a lot to get to. Tournament, of course, here in Memphis. Schedule release for 2025 on the PGA Tour today. But the place we got to start is by thanking our once again, our presenting sponsor, Wear SPF, who've been with us now for more than a month. And I loved this week specifically because here we are in person and we get out of the car Tuesday in the parking lot. Both of us just go right for our bags. I pull out my little Dumbarney bag, get out my spray sunscreen, my lotion sunscreen, and we were just lathering up with Wear SPF right there in the parking lot.
You know, when it's been this week so far, you know, we've had a really hot day on Tuesday. Monday was overcast and kind of, I wouldn't call it cool. It's never cool in Memphis in August, but it was in that category for people that probably live in Memphis. So it was a cool day in the summer. And then today, you know, we've had some rain this morning, and also, you know, this afternoon's been not too hot either. So, you know,
but that's where they get you.
That's where they get you. And the same deal. I looked at the UV thing on the Weather Channel app to see where it was, and it was like, oh, you have to be wearing sunscreen on a day like today.
Was it like a 6? Were we 6 range on UV?
Yeah.
Man. And look at us. We did it. We wore a sunscreen.
Yeah. Definitely lathered up multiple times on Tuesday because it just felt like I was not drinking enough water as it was. And then I lathered up definitely twice and then we played golf and I did it again.
We did it again. And you also can lather up. If you go to wearspf.com and you use the code SMILEY50, which is SMYLIE50. It's buy one, get the second one 50% off. We did a little math in the car yesterday. That means you're getting 25% off on each of them, which is, I think, a good deal.
Yeah, and again, we're not math guys. We're not econ guys either.
Not math guys.
What goes up may go down, but we do know that if you go to Wear SPF and do exactly what he said, you're going to get a little bit of a deal from them. So make sure you stock up because it's going to still be hot here for quite some time.
It will indeed. Smiley50 is the code. So with that, I think, you know, we will get into the event we're here to preview, but the breaking news of the day, the 2025 schedule for the PGA Tour is out. I have it on my phone here. It's very small. I could pull it up and try to, you know, size it up and go through it. But really, to me, the takeaways were, I mean, the biggest takeaway is the flip of the Memorial. The Memorial goes back to Memorial Day. The RBC Canadian Open now leads into the U.S. Open. 8 signature events again. I believe the same set of signature events that we had last season. there's, of course, the news that was recently announced. Truist takes over the sponsorship of the Charlotte event at Quail Hollow. Anything else that stood out to you about the schedule announcement today or stuff that we should cover here?
Nothing really stood out. Nothing really changed a whole lot. Memorial moved a little bit, but that Canadian Opens also got a nice slot this year. So I think 2 of those events in a little better spots in the schedule. But I think 26 is where we may see it get mixed up a little bit more than 25. I think a lot of these tournaments kind of have their dates set. I know that's a big part of these tournament directors and working with the tour, making sure they have their date. But yeah, Truist is coming on from Wells Fargo, and now next year is going to be at the Philly Cricket Club. So super excited about that. But I think if you see the schedule, you don't notice anything like crazy different. I didn't, but I think the one talking point that we can kind of get into here is that there was a lot of speculation that, hey, Wells Fargo is out and there's going to be more behind it. Seeing a lot of these same sponsors still be, locked and loaded for the PGA Tour for 2025, I think just speaks to that the investment's still there. These corporate sponsors and the PGA Tour still have a good relationship, and they're going to keep building towards, to where the tournaments are happy, the communities, the fans, where they're continuing to give back and put on great golf tournaments.
Totally agreed. I think, I think it's interesting. You're seeing a wide range of reactions to the schedule on social media and otherwise. And I think, again, we've had a similar version of this discussion for a lot of different topics in the world of professional golf. And it's people who want massive change, and they want it right now, and they want it to look dramatically different. And I'm okay with having viewpoints like that in the game because it helps, push people to consider different, can we get creative with scheduling or sponsorship or, structure or whatever else. But I think at the same time, you really got to be realistic about the sponsors you have committed, the communities that you're in, and just the whole change is contingent on the nature of the ongoing negotiations between the tour and the PIF. Like, it's really hard to do something crazy different if that's still being settled. And because that is the case and that's the nature of negotiations, you kind of got to say, all right, well, then this is what we have to roll out now. So I think it's completely fair for this to look like it does now. And I don't know if that's something that changes in 26 or beyond, but for me, seeing Philly Cricket Club on the schedule, that's awesome. I know that was a couple of days ago, but that's going to be a really cool one. And then leading into a PGA back at Quail Hollow. So they're both on the schedule next year.
All right, I'll ask you this question.
Okay.
What would be the one golf course, if you could pick it out of any course in the country or have a PGA Tour event, what course would you pick?
Well,
and the answer needs to be
realistic.
You need to be realistic about the golf course, and can it host a tour event? Is the venue proper for it? Maybe not quite as much like what's your favorite golf course, much more of like, hey, this golf course could easily host a tour event, has the space to do it as well.
Well, it's funny because like my 2 unrealistic answers are places that are just hard to get to for people.
I know what your answer is.
Well, Sandhills, Sandhills. And I've actually never been to Bandon or played Bandon, but like it'd be cool to see, because it feels like those are places that have enough space because they're more modernly built to put infrastructure there. But it's like, how are you going to get thousands of fans in there, players in there? It's not like going to be some massive undertaking. In terms of a course that, like, I would really love to see us, because you and I talk a lot about like trying to go to some big cities and try to, the one idea that we kicked around that I love so much is like, let's go to one of these classic Long Island courses in summer. Let people just go hang in the Hamptons and hang out at the beaches. And really, you can have your pick of any number of courses out there. There's so many good ones that are historic. Now, the challenge there would be the reverse of a Sandhills or a Bandon. It's like they're old. You got to get creative with infrastructure. It's
where are you going here?
Oh, man, I don't even know that I can give you. I don't have a good clear one.
Do you want mine?
Yes, please.
I've never even played it. I've just seen pictures, and maybe it kind of, I don't know if it's the same course designer. This is probably terrible. I don't know this, but Chicago Golf Club.
Oh, would love it. Yeah, I've only heard good things. But like, let's get to like, I love that. I think like, what if we did like Piping Rock out in Long Island?
Never played it.
Could be great. It could be. It's like a great classic, like course out in Long Island. Anyway, we'll continue to workshop this. I like this. This is a good exercise.
Deepdale?
Deepdale.
That'd be
Love
sweet.
Deepdale. Deepdale would be sweet. That's another one.
Yeah.
Good Long Island golf course.
Good Long Island golf course.
So that's the schedule. I don't think there's much to talk about there.
Sleepy Hollow.
I
Sleepy
almost
Hollow.
said Sleepy.
Sleepy Hollow would be
Almost said
sweet.
Sleepy.
Okay. Sorry to take us a little off there, but everybody that's watching and listening, I know you're playing the game in your head.
I mean, a lot. And who doesn't love a little summer New York? That's always good vibes. You know what I mean? So just think about it. Just think about it. Anyway, that's the brief thing we have on the 25 schedule, and we'll see how that continues to shape up for 2026 and beyond with just a lot of different factors in play. But switching our focus now to the FedEx St. Jude Championship here this week, and 2,000 FedEx Cup points up for grabs for the winner. Just looking at. So we can start. I'll give you the option here. Do you want to start by talking about some players at the top of the odds board? Do you want to start talking about the golf course first?
Let's set the golf course up.
Love it. Okay, so here's what I got for you. I've got just the basic stats. It's a par 70, 35-35. It's 7,243 yards. The average size landing area on this golf course, 25 yards wide in fairways. And here's a little grass nerd, a little agronomy nerd action for you. We've got Champ Bermuda greens. We got Zion Zoysia in the fairways. And we got 419 Bermuda rough, which is like pretty standard for like southern golf courses, like high end southern golf courses. That Zion Zoysia, that's nice.
It's
Big fan of Zion Zoysia.
It is so pure. And if you don't like your bed this week, I think you just bring a pillow out here and just sleep in the fairway. It's that good.
It's very cushy. And so I want to hear you walk the course now. I want to get your thoughts. But the two last things I got to give you notes on this golf course are the golf course dogs. We've got a border collie named Millie, who I saw a video earlier. Millie does not go on the greens. Millie goes on the collars.
That's a good girl.
Very good girl.
That's a
and
very
then we
good girl.
have Honey, a yellow lab, which I figured you might like.
Yeah.
You're a golden retriever family, but adjacent. Yellow
We're kind
lab
of
adjacent.
rivals, but we're from the same family, you know? If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it
like
does.
Cut
It
from the
does.
same cloth, but also
Yeah.
we don't want the labs hogging up all the golden retriever loving that we bring. But we also appreciate a lab,
It's
and
fair.
you can relate to lab parents. So
I'm a black lab dad, so you know we get it. The behavior's similar. It's retriever.
Good to know. So
lifestyle.
Millie and Honey, I'll be looking out for
Millie
this
and
week.
Honey, and so now let's hear what you got on the golf course for us.
Okay, so the fairways are perfect. They redid these fairways two years ago, and they were absolutely money. The rough is spottier than it has been in the past. So it actually lends itself to breaks off the tee and guys getting maybe penalized or actually maybe catching breaks, which I think in years past it used to just kind of sit down in the rough, similar like we saw at Wyndham. Not going to be seeing a whole lot of that this week. I actually feel like it's going to play easier this week than it has in years past. The last 2 years, 15 under has been the winner. We've seen playoffs in multiple years, right?
Yeah. We saw a playoff last year between Patrick Cantlay and Lucas Glover, and the year before was Will Zalatoris and Sepp Straka. Yeah.
So the greens at the end of the year in November, they're ripping them up. They're going to change some of the green contours, regrass them, and try to get some. They've lost some hole locations over the years with the greens just shrinking over time, and you could see that on some of these holes out here, where it needs a little bit more surface area to just kind of make a couple of these pockets a little bit bigger on these greens. But the greens have always been something that these pros have talked about as being some of their favorite. They putt all year. As Sahith Agalis told me yesterday, he said they're really, besides a couple holes, they're not the most sloped greens that we play, but they're some of the fastest greens they putt on all year. And they're going to be stimped out at 12.5. A couple of the greens, like 17 sloped a little bit more back to front. That's one that could get really dicey on a Sunday if you get above the hole and you had to make a 3-footer to stay, whether it's inside the top 50 or maybe it's a situation where you have a chance to win the golf tournament. But it's a golf course that favors accuracy off the tee. I think we all know that when we get to Memphis, you kind of like to take the guys that are going to be hitting fairways, because when you play out of rough to small greens, especially not inviting fronts of the greens, it's a lot of just playing to a certain spot when you hit it into the rough. Like, you're not able to go at hole locations on the 12th hole, the 9th hole. There's a bunch of other ones where bunkers or water are in the way when you hit it in the rough. So you have to play to the safe side, which basically means you're just playing for pars. So there's not a whole lot of the birdies from the rough this week. It's, you're just trying to make pars. So there are some holes you can get away with it, but for the most part, when you hit the fairways, I was talking to Jason Day about this. It can be one of the easiest golf courses you play all year. Like it feels that way if you hit all of the fairways. Because yes, are they challenging second shots? But it's not the furthest second shots you'll play all year. There's a couple holes like the 5th hole where you might hit like a 5-iron into the green, but for the most part, lots of short irons. So a lot of opportunities if you're hitting fairways to make birdies, have a hot day, maybe not an Al Geiberger type of 59 day, but I think you'll see some really low scores on Thursday and Friday because the rough's not up. The greens aren't crazy fast yet, and it's going to be sunny. The ball's going to be moving, and we had some rain this morning. So I expect some low scores and very bunched as we head into the weekend.
Yeah, it's interesting having never been here. First time in Memphis, first time at TPC Southwind. Got out today to kind of walk the course a little bit and take a look at it. And it is this interesting mix of, these fairways that look, if you're in the fairway, it's a perfect lie for the most part off Zion Zoysia. And then you're looking at sort of the rough, and to your point, thinned out in some areas, doesn't look too menacing. Feels like you can get a lot of flyers out of that too, which is its own difficulty in proposition of, if you're taking spin off the, those balls and you're hitting approaches into firm greens, can you hold those greens? But to your point, we've had some rain this week and the greens are softer, obviously easier to hold. It feels like to me that there are just certain parts of the course that would seem to me, maybe you can confirm this or, tell me I'm wrong, just like certain spots that might be a little bit uncomfortable with, not like a crazy tree lines, but just like some tight angles here and there.
Yeah.
Looking at the tee shot at 18, it kind of reminds me of the tee shot at 18 at Sawgrass, where it's like you can either really take on that left to right shape of the hole and see how much you want to, kind of trim off there if you're going to make an aggressive tee shot, or you can bail out right, but you got bunkers behind it, But I think it was last year in the playoff where Patrick Cantlay tried to do that and hit it in the water off the tee, and so I think it's like makes you just uncomfortable enough. Does that make sense?
It's a hard tee shot because it's tucked back to the left, so it really kind of forces you to hit a draw. Or if you're going to fade it, you got to start it out over the water. So it's just a very challenging tee shot. Actually, go back 2 years ago in the playoffs, Sepp Straka hits it in the water off the tee, drops, and then hits it up on the green, makes par. Will Zalatoris almost drove it out of bounds through the fairway, chips back into the fairway, and gets up and down for par. And that's when they ended up heading over to the 11th hole. So, we've seen a lot of really interesting shots over the years on 18 because nerves are obviously high and it's a very difficult shot. And then one other note I'll add on the golf course as well is that inside of 30 yards from the fairway to the green, it is all Bermuda. So you are chipping with Bermuda grass around the green.
Grainy,
and
right?
It's super grainy. It's almost thatchy in spots to where like if you pressed your shoe down, it would be like a tidal wave of grain that's coming up. So any chippers that are out there that struggle chipping off of grainy Bermuda this week would be giving you nightmares. And I guarantee you there's players here this week that are very uncomfortable and nervous about maybe some of the lies and shots that face them around these greens, especially if you get, where you're in these low areas, you got to chip short-sided and you got to just make a decision. Am I going to bump something or do I have a good enough lie to trust to open up the face and try to put spin on something and trust that I'm not gonna chunk it.
Right.
And that's going to be a battle that you'll see this week. You'll see some guys struggle around the greens. And you'll see a lot of just basic shots, kind of that one bounce chip shots into hills to where they kind of bump up onto the green and take a little speed off. But not a great week if you don't like chipping.
Yeah, well, grainy chipping. I
Get the
don't know.
putter out.
Yeah,
You
get the putter out.
Get the putter out.
A lot of that. Hope maybe some holdovers from playing over in Scotland. Maybe a little bit of Open Championship action there. Shoot, Pinehurst too this year. We saw a lot of guys that grainy Bermuda around the green, pulling out a lot of different types of shots. So some good intel on TPC Southwind, and we will definitely get into some players in a little bit. I had to laugh. I was looking at the FedEx Cup point standings, and Xander Schauffele, 1,936 points behind Scottie.
He could be leading after this week with a win, but Scottie needs to also
finish
not
last, I guess, or not tee it up. And Rory, who's in third, is 3,448 points behind Scottie. So I think let's get into those guys on the other side of the break, because right now we've got another recurring guest on the show, Wyndham Clark. Super pumped for this conversation. Wyndham was really an open book with us last time around and was, talking about his struggles and his mental approach and looking to do more of the same in this sort of conversation on the back end of a lot of success and, playing well in some signature events this season, getting a big win at Pebble and really kind of battling at the Olympics. So we're going to get right to that conversation right here in Freight 59 with Wyndham Clark right now. Welcome back to the Smylie Show, still here in Freight 59 and joined again by another special guest here at TPC Southwind. And Wyndham, we got to congratulate you because you are our fourth recurring guest in the history of the show. So now it's a club,
database.
Building a Friends of the Show section. It's Justin Thomas, Jordan Spieth, Nick Dunlap earlier this week, and now Wyndham Clark. So congrats on that. 5th in the FedEx Cup, 5th in the world, and coming into this week with sights set on making it to Denver and then making it to Atlanta, but sights set on winning a FedEx Cup championship. So just how you feeling coming into the week and just performance this far, coming back from Paris and the Olympics, just general state of the game right now.
Trending. I'd say trending in the right direction. I feel like I've played a lot of good rounds in tournaments lately, just not a complete tournament. I've struggled out of the gate a little bit, but that's the fun thing about golf is you're always working on something. That's something I'm working on, is handling the kind of nerves and some of the expectations in those first rounds, because once I get past kind of that first round, I've played some awesome golf. So if I can, just get a little bit better in that first round, those turn into, some of those backdoor top 10s maybe turn into backdoor top 5s, and then eventually, hopefully, turn into we're in contention the whole time. So
yeah, and Wyndham, the first half of your year, you're just on fire, right? Like I think you were playing probably some of the best golf you've ever played, especially because I got to watch a lot of it, and what you were able to do off the tee, and then your putter was hot. You're playing at a place like Bay Hill, and in the past, talking to your caddy, John Ellis, he's like, this isn't a great golf course for us, but you went out there and finished second place, and the signature events, really, you were just on fire pretty much the whole year.
Yeah, I started out great, and, it was unfortunate I had a little bit of an injury and then just some issues playing the rest of the year because – for a good part of it, obviously Scottie was in a different league of his own.
You're keeping up, though, man.
But I was kind of the second best player for a little while in the world, which was exciting and fun. And then just some things happen, and then you play poor golf, which happens. It's golf that happens. But the good thing and the fun thing about golf is the challenge of, okay, we were in a great spot and trying to get back to that spot, and then ultimately trying to play better than where you were. So I'm hoping I trend in the right time and play good these last 3 weeks.
And you kind of mentioned an injury. I'm curious because, it seemed like the second half of the year you have, these hot rounds where you're making a bunch of birdies, and there were other rounds where you just couldn't quite put it together. Did the injury kind of contribute a little bit to maybe just getting a little bit off in maybe your motor pattern or your swing? Did it kind of lead you to work on your golf swing in the second half of the year?
Yeah, a little bit. I've noticed a trend that I've done on tour. So this first time I've really had an injury. It happened right before Augusta, and since then I've had some lower back stiffness. So I went from having kind of pretty regular 185 to 188 ball speed, and I was barely getting 180.
That's a sign.
And yeah, it doesn't sound that. And yes, 180 is still fast and whatnot, but that trickles down the whole entire bag. And you just feel stiff, and then you make bad swings, and you flip at it. And so I would go through days where it was really stiff, didn't feel good, and then other days it was good. And so then we're going out there, and it's hard to control how far you're hitting it. And so that it's been a kind of a constant battle. Now, as I've gotten healthier and feel better about it, I've started to be a little bit better. But in that, now I've added expectations in the starting round. And so it's funny how it all kind of starts with the injury, and then it's just a trickle effect. So now I feel like we got the injury taken care of.
Good.
And now you're working on the root cause of some of the issues, and so it's kind of a cycle.
Makes sense.
Wyndham, I want to rewind back to sort of the start of the year, the win at Pebble Beach, gained just shy of 4 strokes gained putting. Just a phenomenal performance. Now, well documented on this show, Smylie knows I'm a bit of a putter tinkerer, have a little bit of a problem. In fact, I think last time you were on, I was showing you the original Jailbird. We were kind of haggling over whether or not it can make its way to you. I know middle of the year, you were kind of like messing around with some different putters. Just curious, what that process looks like, what you're looking for, and if it's like trying to get back to where you were at Pebble when it was just maybe the best putting performance of anyone on tour this season.
I mean, I don't like to change equipment, but I definitely tinker as well. So I love to exercise, trying something new, and then ultimately I try for a couple days, one round, and then I go, no, let's go back to Old Faithful.
Love that.
Pebble
sounds familiar.
Pebble is a great example. I had legitimately had 9 putters out on the Monday or the Sunday before the week, and then ultimately chose the putter I used. I had a great putting round. And then we played some good golf, used that putter, and then, just like anything in golf, I started not putting good, and I didn't know exactly what was going on. I didn't feel as confident. And so then I found myself at the U.S. Open, of all things, tinkering with putters. But the great thing about that is it led me back to Old Faithful, kind of what I won the U.S. Open with. And so even though I've used the same putter, it's just different variations of it. We kind of went back to the longer,
That's what you have now.
bigger grip. It's a touch shorter.
So we're OG Jailbird.
Not the exact OG,
Right.
but it is the OG setup.
I was just trying to see like how
The
much
OG
cash.
Ricky setup.
I was trying to see if I could still sell him my Jailbird. It's really what I was getting at here. Is like how much is that worth in an open market?
I'd have to look at it first. I'm so particular. If it sets up anything shut, no chance.
Because you had, I remember looking at one of your putters, and it didn't have, at Bay Hill, it didn't have a top line on it, and it was shorter, and you were putting cross-handed.
Yep.
And now, so it's longer. Are you conventional style putting?
No, so
still cross-handed.
So Ricky's is like 38, and the one that I used during the U.S. Open was 38. This one's like 36 and a half, 37. Still has the big grip. I'm still left-hand low, which probably won't ever change now. I love it. And I have just a dot on top now. So just one dot.
Help center it up.
Yep, exactly.
Makes sense. And so we're here in Memphis, first week of the playoffs, and I was looking at your results last year. Obviously, you crushed it during the playoffs. But then the year before, part of my memory was thinking, I remember Wyndham down the stretch 2 years ago here in Memphis, like battling to try to make it to the BMW. Do you remember like being in that position? And this year, you're in the top 10 of the FedEx Cup, so you don't have to worry about it as much as these other guys. But just put in perspective, the guys that are on the bubble this week, coming down the stretch here, and all the challenges this golf course presents down the stretch.
Yeah, well, that event, I was actually maybe 3rd, 4th, or 5th going into the back 9, and I parred. I believe I either birdied 11 or 10, but par 12, parred or birdied 13, and we're right there to where, hey, we have a chance to win. And then I hit in the water on 14. And so I ended up making double. Then we par 15. Then we go to 16, the par 5, and I hit it green side, and I blade the bunker shot. So then I goes in the back bunker and plugs. So now we're trying to. So I end up making bogey, and I went from being.
So you're doing math now in your head.
Well, and so is my caddy, John. And so we went from had a chance to win where we weren't even concerned about making to BMW. It's like, hey, we can win a tour, my first PGA Tour event, and set us up for the playoffs. And then now it's like, oh my gosh, now we just need to get in the clubhouse. And I end up bogeying 17. And so John. I'm kind of at this point, I could see John's a little more anxious now. We hit it, I think, in the rough or something off the tee on 18. I end up missing the green, and we have a pretty ho-hum chip, and I hit it to that the awful distance of about 4 feet behind the hole. And so I kind of go to John. I'm like, what do we? He's like, yeah, we need to make this. So then, of course, I'm like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe the chain of events. So it is amazing because in this format, like every shot does matter.
Yeah.
And it's, you look like you're going to make it, and then something crazy happens, and, you know, conversely, someone else could be in the clubhouse saying they're not going to make it, and someone does what I do and implodes, and you move in. So there's so much movement. It's exciting, and but I'm definitely glad where I'm at now, to where I don't have as much stress, and now I can go out, and I know I have 3 tournaments, and I'm hoping I really get myself into some good golf.
Wyndham, I think one of the cooler parts of your story is just how open you are about the mental progress you've made and the work you've done there with mental coaches, and just, how that's paid off in a lot of ways, and just success on tour. And so just going a couple weeks back to the Olympics, where you shoot 75 in that first round, and just to kind of grind to go 68, 65, 65, and obviously not in the medal stand, but just curious, reflecting on that week, and how much of that was I played good versus how much of that was I just buckled down and just found a way mentally to get back to where you ended up.
Yeah, I mean, there's little, I just was talking to someone recently, there's little moral victories, and one I think of that off the top of my head that recently happened that most people probably don't look at it being that big of a deal was Max Hulme at the Open Championship made that 35-footer and gave a huge fist bump. And I'm close with Max and his caddy Joe, and I know that he's been struggling of late. And little things like that, that's like huge for your psyche. And so then I find myself at the Olympics wanting to do the best I can for my country, and knowing how big the Olympics is, and I watched a ton of events leading up to that, and just so much motivation to want to do well. And then starting out basically shooting myself out of the tournament, and was really frustrated. But the great thing is I finished early. I went home. I was pissed, and I sat there and I was thinking. I said, "All right, well, this sucks, but I'm representing Team USA. I have pride in myself, and I also have the playoffs coming up." So I said, all right, well, these next 3 days are essentially prep, and let's dig deep and see what we can do. And I went out and I played awesome golf. And gosh, there's just even after the 75, there's a couple of shots I hit in the water on
Really?
Friday.
Wow.
I hit it in the water on Friday on 2 and made a double, and still shot 68, and I hit it in the water on 18. So that's 2 doubles that I had. So 4 shots. You're kind of now talking to where I still had a chance.
Right.
I'd have been 15 under, where I would have kind of had a chance to maybe.
I think he was 17, I think.
Yeah. So with that, it was really one of those things where I felt like I could build off of that, and I'm proud of myself that I came back, because the Wyndham 2 years ago, I would have finished 50th, and I would have just said, all right, well, this tournament's over, and instead I dug deep and played good golf.
That's got to give you a lot of confidence, because I saw your first round, and then I saw you tap in on Sunday. I was like, holy crap, he did something crazy here. And I started doing the math, 15 under over the last 3 rounds. I was tied for first among the rest of the field. So really, really quality golf by you there. But the Olympic experience, Wyndham, sum it up. I mean, how great was it?
It's epic. It's so cool. I mean, it's the pinnacle of sports.
Yeah.
It truly is.
Wow.
It's I got to stay one night. First off, I did the opening ceremonies, which was the coolest experience I've ever been a part of. We got to do the opening ceremonies for Ryder Cup last year, and that was, amazing.
Yeah.
And this just surpassed it, because you're with so many of the best athletes. You got the whole world watching, not just the golf world, and you're just doing something that they've done for thousands of years. And so it's really neat. And then I stayed one night in the Olympic Village. Got to sleep on the cardboard bed, which was not great.
How bad? Out of 10.
It was awful. And I had the AC, which not many people had AC, but in this night it was cold, and my roommate clearly wanted it to be blasting, and it was blasting right at me, and so I was frozen.
Who was your roommate?
Marcos Giron, tennis player.
Tennis player.
Yeah.
Oh, so they pair you with, so you had and it's literal cardboard, the bed is.
So the thing holding up is cardboard, and then the bed is about this big. And
man.
I was joking with one of the other athletes. They say there's 2 sides to the bed. So one side's firm, one side's soft. And the athlete I was joking with, actually Chris Ventura, a Norwegian player, he said that they went and talked to him. They said, "Oh, there's one side firm, one side soft," and he goes, "Oh, perfect. We'll go flip it over." Well, he went to flip it over and realized he was on the soft side. So he's like, "Oh my gosh!" So it's
amazing.
it is
Not
full
good.
back, like it's right back to college dorms. Is the best way I could put it. There was 7 or 8 of us in kind of one like apartment area that had one bathroom between the 7, 8 of us, and it was
Dude, that's the full experience.
it was.
man.
So that was really fun. And then obviously seeing the other events was amazing. And then you get into the golf, and the crowds and the atmosphere was so cool, and you could just see everyone's proud to represent their country. So it's the coolest experience I've been a part of, to be honest.
And I saw the picture with you and Derek White, and it seems like you two have a relationship. But besides Derek, was there anybody that you saw in the Olympic Village or just from Team USA that you were starstruck by, that you just like, man, can I go talk to him?
Let's see, starstruck. I don't know. We got to see all the athletes. Like we ran into Noah Lyles on the boat. Sha'Carri Richardson. We saw. It was really fun for me you bring back Derek White. We grew up together. We played against each other in basketball, and
How'd that go?
I joked about it. This is kind of funny. This is funny because he was there with I think Booker and then Jimmer Fredette on the 3v3 team, and someone else. We're all talking, and Book was like, "Oh, you know him?" And I was like, "Yeah, I used to cross him up back in the day." He's like, "Really?" And D goes, "Yeah, I kind of did."
Yeah.
So Derek and I have known each other a long time, but it's awesome to see where he's come.
Oh my gosh, amazing.
And then Sabrina Ionescu, we used to be on the training table at Oregon because we had the same golf and basketball had the same trainer, and so I would be in there, and we kind of struck up a friendship. So it was cool to see. I haven't seen her since she turned pro, and so that was kind of fun. There's a lot of Oregon athletes at the Olympics, so I got to see a bunch of people. Yeah, so.
Were the golfers popular? Like we're
Surprisingly, it's probably the first time I ever felt like a little mini celebrity because we had other athletes that do way cooler stuff than I think I do, and they would come up and be like, "Oh my gosh, I want to take a picture with you." And there's one guy in particular that he goes, "I didn't think you were coming." And it was from 20 feet away, and he was looking at me, and I looked back like this, going, "There's no way he's talking to me." And he's like, "Yeah, you. I didn't think you were coming on the boat." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm here." And he goes, "I was looking for you. I want to get a picture." And I was like, "Oh, okay, sweet." So it was really nice. I mean, it's really cool. Colin and I felt, outside of the USA basketball team, we kind of felt like the next best celebrities, which is pretty
so
cool.
cool.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, so the Derek White connection, that was one that I didn't really know about until seeing some of the pictures. The one I did know about, and turning the page a little bit, we got fall ahead of us, got football season. You went to high school with Christian McCaffrey. So we need to talk a little bit advice on fantasies. Like, is that your number one overall guy coming off the board? Are you a fantasy football guy first? Let's start there.
We are. So we have now lost a lot of my friends to the NFL in fantasy football because a lot of my friends are either playing football or working for the football teams. So Christian used to be in our fantasy football team in high school and college. And then, obviously, he can't do it now. Then his brother, Max, used to be part of it. Now he's coaching.
You're saying he's in the league, like in the league with you guys, the fantasy league?
He was in high school. Like it was called High School Heroes. We've done it since we were freshmen. And so we've had it for, now it's 15 years. And so we lost Christian, we lost Max to the NFL. And now one of our friends, JJ, who he's now a trainer for the Raiders. So we went from having like 15 guys to now we're like trying to recruit guys.
It's got to be a lot easier to win the High School Heroes League, though.
Yes,
especially
it is.
as a men's
So
now, right?
I traditionally am the worst because I forget to draft every time. So I'm
that'll
the
do
auto
it.
drafter.
That'll do
Typical
it.
pro.
Yeah,
He's on
exactly.
pro time. He thought, I thought the draft was
Believe me, they
at
all
6
are
or-
like, should we get rid of Wyndham? And last year was my best year. I finished second.
Good for you.
So I'm yet to win. But every year's my year, I say.
I love it. I love it. Well, football season's right around the corner, but we had two more weeks after this in Memphis. But how pumped are you to going home next week to Denver to play Castle Pines? It's a place I haven't been to yet, but the NBC team just says this place is going to be epic.
Yeah, it's. I was there just recently, and It'll be one of the prettiest places we play on tour, hands down.
Wow.
It'll be the best service. It'll be...
I heard milkshakes are good.
The milkshakes are incredible.
Okay.
Is there a flavor? Is it like a good flavor just across the board?
They're all
good?
it's similar to, honestly, Muirfield, where all of them are solid.
All right, good
But
to know.
Castle Pines is kind of the best experience I think you can have in golf, from the service to the views to just
Can't wait.
the overall experience is amazing. The challenge of altitude is going to be difficult. It is not... Like, you're at altitude, and then you have tons of elevation change.
Oh, gosh.
So
it's a lot of math.
it's a lot of math.
Big math week.
So there's going to be a lot of players blaming their caddy or putting their hands up like, how does that go long or how's that short?
You have to feel pretty confident about just playing in those conditions and elevation and just knowing kind of how far your ball is because you grew up in it, right?
Yes and no. I haven't played.
It's been a minute.
It's been 8 or 9 years since I've played any competition in Colorado at that kind of altitude. So I'd love to say I have an advantage. I'm going to believe I have an advantage, but at the end of the day, I really haven't played it that much. But going back, it's my first time playing as a professional in front of home crowds.
That's going to be sick.
And I know there's a lot of people that I grew up with that maybe haven't been able to come out and watch me play, and so to have them all out there is going to be really cool.
Well, Wyndham, so great to take the time to join us today. 5th in the FedEx Cup standings. 4th recurring guest on the Smylie Show. Used to be Putter Brothers, now Putter Cousins, maybe, something of the nature. But thanks so much, and best of luck this week out there.
Thanks, boys.
Appreciate it.
Well, there you have it. Another really fun conversation right here on site, the FedEx Cup playoffs with Wyndham Clark. Fun to have him join. Nick Dunlap this week, as well. Really, really fun conversation with both those guys, and looking forward to doing more of that the next couple of weeks in Denver and Atlanta.
What a great start, Props to the PGA Tour for helping us book some great guests with Nick Dunlap and Wyndham Clark this week. And shout out to these guys for taking time out of a busy playoff schedule week in which a lot on the line. So really great interviews with both, too.
How about Wyndham and the municipal slides? I was like, I low-key want a pair of those.
He was chilling.
He was chilling, man. Love it. Love that mode. Well, now it's time to kind of dig further into the players that are obviously competing this week and who we like for some one-and-done picks. And we'll start at the top of the board first with Scottie Scheffler, who in yet another series of ridiculous odds, Scottie plus 330 to win outright this week.
Okay.
I mean, just setting another benchmark for absurd odds to win. Before we talk about Scottie on the course and his his chances to win this week and the next couple, I was sitting in the media building today while he was up on the podium, and he was asked about the FedEx Cup playoff format, and he had sort of an interesting answer of, if let's say I had the same thing that happened to me, the players at TPC Sawgrass happened in East Lake for the Tour Championship. I have a flare up of my neck. I can't get it right in time. I either play poorly or I have to withdraw. Like, is that really, the season long competition? He's like, in my mind, it's not. Which I think it's definitely a fair point to make. And I just wonder what you made of Scottie's comments on the topic of just whether or not the current playoff format is one that is, I don't know if fair is the right question. I think his sort of point was that it's not a season-long competition, but just your thoughts in general on what Scottie had to say about the playoff format.
Well, we went away from the points style that we had. We have points for the next 2 weeks, but then the East Lake, we changed to the format in which you start the winner heading into the week at 10 under, and then you go back from there. And what it's made it easier for us to do on TV side, which now working my first playoffs, I would say that it's much easier when you turn on the TV. The golf viewer is accustomed looking at a leaderboard, right? Like, this is where the lead is at, and there's no question marks about all the points of, oh wait, if this guy wins, does he win? Mm-hmm. What sporting event do you watch where you look at the leaderboard and that's not the guy who actually wins the season long race? So it's just a mix of trying to cater it towards an audience to make him be able to understand it to where it's not convoluted when you look at a leaderboard, but also I 100% understand what Scottie Scheffler was talking about, right? Like, when you've played as well as he has this year, I mean, it'd be silly for him not to finish inside the top or 30th place, right? Like that. Right. That just seems like that would be a massive miss. Now they have They have made the Comcast top 10 that they award. They've actually doubled that. So he actually won $8 million, I believe, on that, which was up from 4.
That's good getting.
Which is, I think, a reason why they did that, just in case something like this happened to the guy who won. But anyways, Scottie's lost. He's won a lot of money this year. I don't think he really is like so concerned about like if he withdraws and like not getting the money. It's more about I think he's just looking for the best playoff situation for the players and the fans. And right now we have something that's understandable, but is it the best solution moving forward? Debatable.
Well, and I think that's you kind of hitting the nail on the head there, because it's, what are we defining? Like, what conversation are we having? Are we having a conversation about whether it's the best season-long competition? Well, the point Scottie makes today, it's probably not that, because of all the variability you can have in a one-week tournament at the end of the season. But to your point, it's the most easily understandable, and it's the one that makes the most sense for the fans. And so I think with a lot of this stuff, it's trying to define what is success, what are we going after here, and then saying, well, if we're going after a system that you flip the TV on, you know what's going on immediately, what we have is probably it. And I'm not, this is no knock on Scottie at all. Like, I think what he's saying is a fair response to the question that was posed to him. I'm just saying, give me something different. If we're trying to bridge the gap between a fair representation of a season-long competition and something that's easily understandable, what's a better way we can do this that makes sense? And I certainly don't have that in my head, and I wonder if there are other ideas that are floating around there.
People argue match play, but match play also, what happens if Scottie loses the first round to a guy who gets hot, right?
Exactly. I mean, match play, that's one, there's one round. Any
of these guys can lose to anybody on a given day.
Yeah, I mean, look at match play a couple years ago, where we thought we were going to get the Scottie Rory final. Instead, we got Cam Young, Sam Burns, and that's again, no knock on Cam Young or Sam Burns. They played well, they went out and earned it, but you can't guarantee outcomes or stuff like that. So I mean, I think that there are a lot of different ways you could do it. I'm just not sure that that just saying what we're trying to do is. I don't know. It's a really difficult one. Even in talking, going through it out loud, I'm not sure how you arrive at a place that is like, yes, this is definitively the system that makes the most sense across the board. Unless you just do something radically different with the scoring that's not like a 1 week thing where you like convert everyone's points to.
Yeah, I think that I wish you could look at FedEx Cup points and relate it to how big of a shot lead that you could get. Because like if there was ever a year that Xander and Scottie should be starting at 16 under and 14 under and everybody else is like 6 to 4 under, this would be the year, right?
That's a really good suggestion, because think about the intrigue there. Like, let's say Scottie does have a neck flare up and he's like, but I'm 25 shots up. I could just hit the putter down the fairway for 2 or 3 more rounds and probably shoot the score I need to,
You want drama though, right? And
sure.
And but like you got to measure drama and fairness in all this. And I don't think we have the answer. We're not here to tell you we have the answer. No. We're just telling you that Scottie Scheffler, the best player in the world, is talking about, and we just need to make sure that we give you the meat and potatoes there.
Well, I think there are other things that come into play that's like tournament history. That tournament means something to the Atlanta community, and it's at a storied venue at East Lake. They've now kind of refreshed it to Donald Ross Classic. It's like if you're just going and ripping up what they're doing, that's no fun for them either. So it's almost like you need to add sort of an abstract ending to this thing that's new and doesn't have it. It's just a hard one. It just illustrates how difficult it is to try to figure it out. So
what I'm excited about this week is that the cool thing about the playoffs is that who everybody's getting paired with, because they just go based off FedEx Cup. And so having it being shrunk down to 70 in the first event, in the past in top 125, it would still be threesomes. It'd be, you'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But now we're 70 dudes. I mean, we can go 2-ball right from the get-go. So Xander and Scottie get to look each other in the eye.
Which is going to be really compelling. Xander is 8-1 this week, so he's obviously the second shortest favorite. Rory 10-1, Colin Morikawa 12-1. We're going to kind of get into one and done picks who we like this week, and we both unfortunately have already burned Scottie. But just this course alone, TPC Southwind. I know Xander and Scottie in the past have been a little bit slow starters in the playoffs. Do you like those guys this week? You know, given what you've seen, because they've obviously both played better than they have in past seasons.
Yeah. Well, I really think this golf course, when I went around it today, I was like, what does this remind me of? And maybe not so much like all the grass combinations, because this is a very unique grass combination that TPC Southwind has. But if you were able to put houses and OB a little closer to the edges of maybe the 15, 20 yards off of the rough, this place would remind me a ton of Hilton Head.
Interesting.
And who won at Hilton Head this year?
Scottie Scheffler. Worked out well from there.
I think it's the green complexes, just with how they're shaped. There's these little fingers that are in the corners of these greens where you can hide some hole locations. Also a golf course where if you find the fairways, you're going to have a lot of wedges in, but there's some really challenging shots. I mean, just look at the 14th hole at Hilton Head, which is a brutal par 3. You know, you got it's like you're hitting it back into a lagoon, and there's a green out there, and there's the bulkhead with water right. Let's go here to Southwind, 14th hole. It's elevated tee shot, 200 to the front of the green, 230 to the back pin. It's further than the shot at Hilton Head, but it's just, I think there's a lot of comparisons that you can make between those two courses that if you wanted to go and see how guys played at Hilton Head and here. Now, you can hit more drivers here than you can at Hilton Head. Well, you can hit drivers at Hilton Head, but nobody does it. Like a lot of 3-woods, high irons, but I think there's a comparison to be made.
It's interesting because just in running through that in my head right now, it feels like maybe some of the tree line, portions of Hilton Head, the trees maybe encroach a little bit further onto the course. I think that's a fair assessment. Whereas like Southwind, you can definitely get into tree trouble here, but it's places you should not be hitting it. Where you can hit a somewhat decent tee shot at RBC Heritage and be like, wait a second, now I've got a bad angle in because I got this overhanging deal.
And I think the trees obviously frame the holes at Hilton Head, and there are placed trees on this golf course that frame the holes out here as well. So I think
tee shot was a little bit like that. We were looking at that the other day. We're kind of down the left side. Yeah.
I think there's plenty of guys that come to mind that play well at Hilton Head and here. Like Justin Thomas is a guy that comes to mind that plays well at both.
Well, I think that's a perfect tee up to start talking about some guys we do like this week for the one and done picks. And we've got a lot of DMs from various fans and listeners and the Instagram, Twitter, and otherwise. People are kind of getting to the end of the year. They're trying to win pools. They like to win a little bit of cash if they can. So we're going to try to help you out as best we can. You got to take some of this with a grain of salt because we burned a lot of players in the process, as you might have as well. But Smylie, it's your pick this week. You're going to kind of kick us off. So let's start with some guys that you like. And just, again, in the spirit of doing this, we're going to give you a lot of different options, different tiers, guys you can maybe use to build out a DFS lineup. Who are some guys you like this week, but you're not using as your one and done pick?
Yeah, I think if I had an option to pick this player, I would, and that's Tom Kim. I just feel like he's had some really strong weeks this year where he's gotten himself in contention, and it's been a really nice bounce back year for him from my perspective, from what I've watched. The work he's done on his golf swing, he's very confident right now, especially just he's put himself in situations this year that I feel like will eventually pay off as far as coming down the stretch and winning at a golf course. And this course in particular just feels like it suits his game. When I think of courses for Tom Kim, Hilton Head, TPC Southwind are like one of the first two that come to mind. So Tom Kim would be one of the first guys I recommend. Do you want me to give me my other two? You want to go back and forth?
We could do a little back and forth.
Yeah,
I was going to say snake
ahead.
trap, but it's not actually a snake trap. The thing, because when you're talking about Tom Kim, you're starting to kind of identify the profile, the player that's going to work well at this course. And so if you go, obviously, I'm very married to the data gut model, right? So I'm going to give you the data part of this first before we get to the gut. And that is that if you're looking at this course profile, there's less of a penalty for driving distance. Like if you don't hit it a mile, it's not going to kill you here. It's a lot about its driving accuracy and its approach play. And so a guy like Tom Kim, not the longest player in the world, that should suit him well. And so I'm looking at guys that are similar to that. And one of kind of the first guys that pops up who just played pretty solid at the Olympics, Corey Connors, 30-1, who, maybe not one of the longest guys on tour, but hits it incredibly straight. Great iron player.
So consistent.
Very consistent. 3 top 10s in his last 5 starts: U.S. Open, Scottish Open, and the Olympics.
It's a good pick.
So I like Corey a lot this week. I think we don't see Corey win a ton or haven't of late, but it kind of feels like one of those guys where he could be in and around it on Sunday.
It's all about the putter, man, for him.
Exactly.
There's weeks, man, it's just like, God, if he could just putt, and there's plenty of players that you could say that about, but I'd rather be the guy that I think he's made 27 straight cuts.
Yes.
And it's just, props to him, his consistency, and the reason why is that he puts the ball in the fairway and on the green a lot.
Yeah, well, so that's my first suggestion. Who do you got next?
I've had like so many guys written down, and that's the problem when we make these suggestions. All right,
it's like the Aaron Rye chicken scratch dilemma. You know what I mean?
That's the thing with this list. I have so many guys that I'm like, oh no, because we actually like a lot of the same guys this week, and I'm going to keep riding the train. He was my one and done pick last year, and it's, I think, a great suggestion if you haven't used him yet. I think Billy Horschel still has yet to, I feel like, and he won Dominican Republic, but I feel like he's trending towards a win, and the way he's playing, it just, to me, it feels like he's going to make a push towards this President's Cup. You heard him talk about, if I can just get one win and just play solid the rest of the year, it's going to be hard for him to not be considered to be on that team. So Billy Horschel, coming off a good week at the Wyndham and the Open Championship, is a guy that I really like this week, mainly because he's played really well in Bermuda in his career, and you got to love the form that he's coming in here with.
Yeah, it feels like he has a ton of motivation. It was, by the way, I don't know if we covered this or not, but super cool to see him cheering on Aaron Rye at the end last week. Just great human being. So it'd be fun to kind of see him get a win.
I asked him too for a minute. I was like, man, was that a long week? Or are you just exhausted? He's like, no, I'm good. And I was like, he's good.
He's good. And
he's
also,
not worn out yet.
Do we get Smylie Show bump? Like, is there an extension to Aaron Rye because he was playing with Billy Horschel? Question has to be asked.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. It's a great question.
The guy I'm going to go with next, I'm going to kind of stick to this same sort of theme in terms of just trying to find a course profile. So 35-1, Russell Henley. This is a guy that we were looking at President's Cup standings of late, and he's 8th in the President's Cup standings, and you're just like, man, I wonder how he got it done. Then you go look at his data golf profile, and it's like, oh, it's been insanely consistent. I mean, he's got of late, he has a T for 7 at the U.S. Open, finished in 5th at the Open Championship, and it feels like, this would be a nice time for him to sort of make a push to really solidify his standing in the President's Cup. I think you get a point and a half, like it's a weighted FedEx Cup point system for the U.S. team qualification for President's Cup. So these events mean a little bit more for them. So whatever that he's getting, there's sort of a multiplier. If he plays well this week, he can maybe move up, get in that final 6th qualifier position. So I think I like Russell a lot because it is a similar profile to Corey Connors, where not the longest guy in the world, but hits it straight, and he's a great iron player. So I like him here this week.
Hasn't made a team yet either. When it comes to President's Cup and Ryder Cup, and you'd love to be 8th in the standings in a Ryder Cup year for if you're trying to make your first team. But I think when you're at Russell's stage in his career, you're like, man, just get me on a team, right? Yeah. And give yourself an at bat. I know how badly these guys want to make teams, and Russell would be a great pairing that I'm sure Jim Furyk would love to match up for a guy that just continues to put the ball, like you said, on the fairway and on the green.
Yeah, absolutely. So that is my second guy. Who do you got next?
All right, next guy. I've already picked. So all 3 of these guys I've picked. So Tom Kim I picked at the Scottish Open. I picked Billy Horschel last week at the Wyndham, and then I picked Brian Harman at Copperhead at Innisbrook in Tampa. So that was a frustrating week because it just felt like that golf course, just like this one, it reminds me so much of each other. Copperhead, Hilton Head, TPC Southwind, all similar to me. It's a golf course that, it requires precision. And Brian Harman, I feel like he's had a better second half of the year than he has the first half of the year, just from watching his golf swing and how he feels. It looks like to me the work that him and Justin Parsons have done. It looks like he's confident in what he's doing. Saw him hit some shots this week. Looked really solid. Put it right down the middle of the fairway. And I actually watched him on the putting green for like 15 minutes. He was just putting on I don't know if it was a chalk line or not, but it was just like this left-right 8-footer. And for 15 minutes, I don't even know if he missed a putt.
Wow.
It was the same putt, right? But it still was just like, wow, gosh, just filling it up. So Brian Harmon had some good success on this golf course as well. So, again, maybe not quite the form that you would hope, but he's had, he's still in the top 20 in the FedEx Cup, so he's had a fantastic year, but not quite as loud as last year winning the Open Championship. So maybe this will be the week in which he gets a W this year.
I think that's a good suggestion there, because I can kind of play on that as sort of continuation of a theme, because the guy I'm going to suggest here, it's absolutely insane that this guy has not won in 2024. And it's also a guy that I've already used as well. And Collin Morikawa at 12-1, I suggest him because a lot of you have big guns left out there to use in your one and done pools, right? I don't know what combination of people you've used, but Collin just feels like he's due for a win. I remember last year, got off to a really hot start at East Lake and just kind of faltered on Saturday and Sunday. But it feels like a win here could really kind of get him rolling, and you kind of paid the year off where you had some near misses in majors and just couldn't necessarily get it done with a strong finish, and maybe a FedEx Cup win would be a great exclamation to the season for him. So 6 top 5s this year for Collin Morikawa, and some near misses, a lot of big tournaments, but a guy that's just played phenomenally well this year and kind of got back to the place he wants to be. Talked about it with you on the show. So I'd suggest, if you haven't used Collin yet, again, we're talking about accurate guys off the tee and great iron players. Collin is that in spades. So I'd suggest maybe using Collin here.
Yeah, no, it's a great pick, and one that's going to be very popular by a lot of people if you still have him left. But I was watching him get some work done on the putting green with Stephen Sweeney, and he was working on looking like trying to get his putter started with his left shoulder, and again rolling in end over end, putt over putt after putt, I should say. And so it looks like that was a point of emphasis for him this week, was working on the putter, because that's probably what it comes down to for him, is whether he gets a putter that's hot enough for him to go and win. So would love to see Collin get his first win,
without a doubt. And so this leads us to your one and done pick for the FedEx St. Jude Championship. Who you got this week, SK?
I'm going to take a guy who's had probably the quietest year inside the top 10 in the FedEx Cup. One that really is, you go look at his stats and his results, and you're like, man, how have I not seen this guy this year? But he's just been a model of consistency since he's got onto the PGA Tour. He's a ATM, cash machine, makes cuts, always inside the top 25, it feels like. And this year, that guy, like every other year, it seems like Sung J M. I'm not overly confident about him winning this week. Okay. I'm very confident about him finishing top 10. I just don't know if he has put himself in contention down the stretch enough to go and hit the shots to go win a golf tournament. That's the one concern I have about him winning here this week. But if you look at just what he's been able to do in his resume, he's played good here. He's played good on golf courses I've talked about that are similar to this course. Good results here, T6 and T12 the last 2 years. So you got to have a guy that comes in here in solid form the entire year. Didn't play the majors well, but played all the signature events and other PGA Tour events extremely well. But had a top 10 at the Open Championship, which I feel like it's maybe kind of a monkey off the back type of situation when you've been struggling in the majors during that season, and then you have a good end of the season with the majors. So maybe rolling in with a little bit more confidence, coming off a good week at the Open, and trying to get position himself inside. That would probably put him inside the top 3 or 4 heading into the BMW if he was able to get a win.
Yeah, a guy that a lot of people liked last week at the Wyndham before we had the deluge of weather and all.
Did you take him?
I did take him.
You did take him.
I did take him. I think I got about eight points or something like that from him. It wasn't a significant bump in that category. But no,
he's getting ready for this week.
He's getting ready for this week, so he gets you all the points. That'd be a nice little turn of fate for the way it's gone for you this year with some of your one and done picks.
I know. We'll see. All
right, so Sung J M for SK, and then on my end, you talked about the fit with Hilton Head, Harbor Town being similar to this. A guy who's played well there, who's got some course history here. Last 3 starts, tied for 25th at the Open Championship, tied for 5th at the Travelers, tied for 3rd at the U.S. Open, and lost in a playoff here last year. I'm going to go with Patrick Cantlay at 22-1. Just feels like, and a couple years ago when he wins the FedEx Cup, he won obviously the BMW Championship at Caves Valley, so a different location. One's on the calendar next year, by the way. So we talk about the 2025 PGA Tour schedule. But I like Cantlay to another guy where he's had some near misses, but you're looking at where he stands in the FedEx Cup, and you're thinking, how do you put that together? And you go look at his results page, and you're like, holy moly, this guy was just model of consistency. Had some big finishes in majors that was just not close enough to be part of that full broadcast coverage on a Sunday, like getting all the airtime, but was there the entire time. And I feel like it's a guy that coming to the FedEx Cup playoffs would love to put a big exclamation point on his season. And I feel like this is a place he could do it, finally get a win here and close up some unfinished business from last year.
Yeah, the key for Patrick Cantlay is going to be his accuracy off the tee. He's kind of right around average in that when it comes to just accuracy. So if he's a little off the tee, that could be the reason why he doesn't have a great week. But if he puts it in the fairway, his iron game, some of the shots he's hit with his irons this year that I've had an opportunity to watch, he may not hit it quite as high as a Rory McIlroy or Scottie Scheffler, but he really does have fantastic control, can work it both ways. But really, his when he hits a fade, it's really nice. And Jamie Mulligan, talking to him just a little bit about his game, he was just saying that his speed is when it looks effortless to him, that's when he feels like everything is moving in the right direction, and that it doesn't look like he's working hard to hit it really, straight and accurate. So I like Patrick. I think it's a good pick. It was actually, I was probably going to take him, and then I realized you were taking him. Even though I had the first pick, I was like,
yeah,
wow,
I really
kind
of flipped that on you, didn't I?
First pick, second pick. It's like whoever texts each other first. It's like, dude, you can't take my guy.
It's part of the game. It's part of the one and done game, right? That getting that first names text off. So there you have it. Sungjae M for Smylie, Patrick Cantlay for me, and this is, at least for me, you're here the whole weekend, but this is the end of the road for me in Memphis. A little bit sad to say farewell. Didn't get my rendezvous ribs, but I'm leaving with some fond memories. And this was a good little first stop for the PGA Tour, the FedEx Cup playoffs. And we're going to be on site in Denver next week and Atlanta the week following.
Yes,
so,
indeed.
As we always do at the end of the show, what do you got for some just final thoughts on the week and just being on site?
Yeah, I would say that the only stat or trend to keep up with is we've had 2 straight hits on the happy hour winners. We've had Akshay at Valero, and then we had Bryce at the U.S. Open. So we're doing it this week. We're doing the 16th hole on Friday. So if you see one of those 2 guys on, you like their chances on the weekend. I mean, technically we're hot. So
lot of happy hour Smylie Show mojo going around.
Yeah, I don't know do we want the happy hour bump or the Smylie Show bump? Which one are we rooting for?
We're rooting for all the bumps.
Okay,
I mean, I think we root for like a top 3 of Nick Dunlap, Wyndham Clark, and whoever you get on happy hour.
Let's do it.
And I think the week itself in Memphis, maybe we'll save our debate on tipping valets for another day.
That's a really great conversation. We'll get into that another day.
Had a lot of fun at Hog and Hominy over a nice little hot honey pepperoni pizza.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it was good times. But
good peanut butter pie.
Good peanut butter pie.
Yeah.
I could have done without the banana layer.
Yeah, that's your own problem.
You're a big banana layer guy. Yeah.
That's your own problem.
Well, a lot of fun this week in Memphis. Big thanks to the PGA Tour for providing some cool guests and locations, and a fond farewell from Freight 59. Yes, I got it. Freight 59 nailed the title. Shout out Al Geiberger. And we really appreciate you all watching and listening this week, and we are looking forward to doing more of this on location next week at Castle Pines for the BMW Championship. We will talk to you then.
I listen to this podcast. It's really cool. And
all of our lovely fans and subscribers, but make sure you like and subscribe.
It's cool to see what you guys are doing. I know golf fans appreciate it, but we do too, so please keep it up.
For all the good people of YouTube, like and subscribe.
You guys have some good takes, so I'm happy to come on and shoot the